Arabia was not necessarily known for rearing men of universal appeal and renown. His birth put an end to that drought and, for the first time in their history, the Arab descendants of the great patriarch, Abraham, had something they could truly celebrate: the birth of the most influential man ever to walk on the earth, Prophet Muhammad. He was born an orphan and was brought up in the Arabian village of Taif, now a city located in the southwest of Saudi Arabia. He was subsequently raised in the town of Makkah by his extended family. He worked as a shepherd and a merchant. He came to be known to his fellow countrymen for his absolute honesty, impeccable character. Prophet Muhammad became increasingly detached from the superstitious beliefs and practices of his people. He began to explore and take a closer interest in spiritual matters by secluding himself on the Mount of Light for meditation. On his 40th year, his meditation on the Mount of Light intensified and reached its climax during one night in the month of Ramadan, which resulted in a direct visitation from Archangel Gabriel. Gabriel confirmed that he, Muhammad, was God's last and final prophet to humanity, and the Quran was God's last and final revelation to mankind. This divine intervention in history marked the beginning of Muhammad's prophetic mission. In 622, the prophet was invited by a delegation from the nearby oasis of Yathrib to move to their city. The prophet accepted their offer and moved to Yathrib, which later became known as Madinat al-Nabi, city of the prophet. The prophet's migration to Medina thus became a momentous event in Islamic history. The Islamic calendar, known as the Hijri calendar, is dated back to the day the prophet left his native Makkah for Medina. In this beautiful Arabian oasis, the prophet received a hero's welcome as its inhabitants came out in their droves and pledged allegiance to him by embracing Islam. From that day on, Medina became a very special place for all Muslims, and it also became the hub of Islamic learning, culture, and civilization for all times to come. When the Meccan chiefs were informed about the prophet's success in Medina, they became very shocked and alarmed, having tried to undermine him and his mission in Makkah, and failed most miserably. The prophet and his small band of followers met the advancing Meccan army at the plain of Badr, located on the outskirts of Medina. More than 1,000 strong, the well-equipped Meccan army fought just over 300 Muslims. Miraculously, the prophet and his followers inflicted a crushing defeat on their Meccan foes. Demoralized by their failure to wipe out the Muslims, the Meccans were eventually forced to agree to a treaty with the prophet and make peace. This period of peace gave the people of Makkah the opportunity to see Islam in action in Medina for the first time. During their journeys to Medina, the Meccans saw a society utterly transformed. The prophet had turned a warring and bitterly divided oasis into a thriving civil society. In the year 630, the prophet and a large contingent of his devout followers marched into Makkah without a single drop of blood being shed. On seeing him enter Makkah, the people of the city came out in their droves and pledged allegiance to him. With the conversion of Makkah and its neighboring towns to the fold of Islam, the prophet accomplished a feat never achieved by an Arab before him, namely, to unite the constantly bickering and rival Arabian tribes under the banner of a common denominator. That common denominator was Islam, which transcended all tribal affiliations and internal factionalism as it collectively channeled the Arabs' might and energy in one direction, namely, the dissemination of Islam, and in so doing, they transformed the course of human history forever. With the successful completion of his mission, the prophet returned to Medina, where he passed away at the age of 63. To some Arabs, history actually began in 570, the year in which their greatest son was born into the noble Meccan tribe of Quraysh. A direct descendant of Ishmael, the father of the Semitic Arab race, he single-handedly dragged the Arab people from being a footnote of human history to be the founders of one of history's greatest civilizations.